KPBS reporter Adrian Florido did the piece. He joins me now. Adrian, you took a look at San Diego County's agricultural community, which in recent years has had trouble finding enough workers. What's the labor situation now?
Well, I guess it depends on who you speak with. I was talking to Eric Larson, who's the director of the San Diego County Farm Bureau, and he says that in the last 3 or 4 years, since the economy kind of went down the tubes and since immigration enforcement has also been on the increase, it's been harder for farmers to find workers to basically pick their harvests. And they say pretty openly that a lot of the people that work on farms as agricultural workers here are undocumented people who use often falsified documents, and that because of this upsurge in immigration enforcement, that's been hard to do. So what they're saying is that they've had to leave fruit on the vines, they have had to scale back on the amount of crop that they produce, essentially.
So immigration reform is on the table now, and whenever reform is discussed, a guest worker program usually comes up. But theoretically, there is a guest worker program right now, but it's not used. Why? There
are all kinds of guest worker programs. One of them specifically is for farm workers, and it's called H-2A. And basically what it does is it allows basically any farmer in the U.S. Who has a need for farm workers who can't find local labor to work on farms to recruit temporary foreign workers. A lot of those workers come from Mexico, but what a lot of farmers say, including Eric Larson and other farmers I've spoken to here in San Diego, is that the program is just so cumbersome, so bureaucratic, that it makes it almost impossible to bring farmers in without a ton of investment, a ton of time, and a ton of red tape to navigate.
So what does Eric want to see?
Well, he and a lot of people in the farm lobby across the country want to see a much more streamlined, simplified guest worker program. So one proposal is to just create some kind of card, some kind of visa that gives people in Mexico, for example, who would come and work on farms, basically the ability to cross the border pretty freely whenever agricultural work is needed, and then require them to return home afterward.
Now, it appears that the Senate plan includes some type of program like this where it makes it easier for them to come and go. But is there a downside to workers to having a guest worker program?
There are so many different perspectives on this kind of program, right? From the farms, from the farm lobby side, they really just want the ability to bring in temporary, low-cost labor. From the workers and workers' advocate side, there's a lot of concern about the existing H-2A program being abusive to and exploitative of farm workers, because a farm worker, for example, can only come in on a visa sponsored by their employer. If they don't find good working conditions, or if they're underpaid or overworked, they can't switch employers. They have to stick with that person, or they can basically go home. For a lot of people who work on the farms who say are U.S. citizens, who may be older, middle-aged, bringing in younger guest workers puts a lot of pressure on them, because these younger workers who come in as temporary workers generally work faster, work harder, and these people have to work, keep up with them if they're local labor. And so what a lot of advocates want is really, well, some people don't want any guest worker program at all. They say that there are enough laborers here. We just need to focus on legalizing the undocumented people already in the U.S. Other people, because they think that the political reality is there's going to be some kind of expansion of the guest worker program, really want to focus on more labor protections for workers.
So about those protections that they're seeking, how strong are these advocates who are lobbying for these workers? How much clout do they have?
Well, we've been able to see from the tons of advocacy that's been going on around the DREAM Act, around just getting immigration to be on the table in general this year, that advocates for workers, advocates for immigrants have a lot of political power, especially now that the Latino vote and the Latino community has become so much more powerful, as evidenced in the last election. So there are a lot of really kind of strong advocates out there doing this kind of advocacy, and they're hoping that they can influence the process this year.
And we've got to end it there. Adrian Florido, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thanks.